When I first started running, I had this tendency of over-analyzing my form, the strides I was taking, etc. etc. I mean, I still kind of am pretty conscious of my form whenever I run to this day. But essentially, in doing so, ironically or unironically, my form kind of worsened. And my body was just so stiff every time I ran. And if you're a runner, you know that you shouldn't be looking down at your feet when you're running. So because I was over analyzing my strides, I was already putting myself at a disadvantage there. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is that I have this tendency to over analyze everything I do, not just when I run, but also when I'm trying to work on my schoolwork, my assignments, and also when I'm trying to produce content. And ironically, I kind of had this dilemma whether or not to make this video because I didn't really know what to say. And so right now I'm just speaking off the cuff. No script. It's not a scripted video at all. I'm just speaking my mind, essentially, speaking from my heart. But as I was saying, I have this tendency, like many other people, to overanalyze everything I do. I'm not sure if this is innate human nature or if it's because some of us grew up in more pragmatic environments, which kind of instilled in us the importance of having everything set in place to avoid the risk of making mistakes or to avoid the risk of big disasters from happening. Whatever it is, I kind of want to use this video to encourage those of you who might be struggling with overanalysis to just take things easy, to just YOLO it at times. I'm not telling you to make reckless decisions, but rather realize that the overanalysis might at times be more of a burden rather than a tool which kind of helps you minimize mistakes later down the road. And the ironic thing is that many of us who tend to overanalyze situations tell ourselves that we are doing it to kind of ensure that everything is set in stone so that we don't make mistakes later down the road. I think the irony is, if you were to look at this from a different perspective, plans do go to fail too, right? So you can spend days, weeks, months, or even years coming up with a concrete plan for it to still go to fail when it is finally executed, because no matter how concrete your plan is, it's subjected to external factors and external circumstance, which is oftentimes or almost always beyond our control. And I'm not telling you once again to wing it every single time, but realize that plans do end up failing too. Understand that it's okay to YOLO things every once in a while. You don't need everything to be set in stone in order for it to be executed. And I think this is especially the case when it comes to business. A lot of people tend to overanalyze the business in which they want to launch, right? It's like your first product in business is never going to be perfect. You are going to have to improvise and make mistakes and learn from said mistakes along the way. Again, it's easier said than done. A lot of us know it in our mind but struggle to kind of execute it. And I think more than just that, overanalysis is very mentally draining. It's very mentally draining to overanalyze every single decision which we kind of make. And so a lot of us turn to procrastination. A lot of us end up procrastinating, right? And so in doing so, the irony is that we are wasting even more time. The act of overanalyzing something is already very time consuming. And when we end up procrastinating, we are wasting even more time, which again could have been spent just executing. And you see the irony here. A lot of the times we tell ourselves that we want everything to fall into stone so that we sort of have control over what comes next, right? I think we are all afraid of the unknown, afraid of making mistakes, and so we overanalyze. But sometimes it just does more harm than good. It sometimes isn't the most efficient way to go about things. And I think the one piece of practical advice I'll give you is this. Picture your younger self, picture your 10-year-old self or something. What would he or she have done in your current situation, right? And why do I say this? I think a lot of the times when we grow older, we start to become aware of the dire consequences of making mistakes, of running into disasters. We tend to become very reserved and we tend to become very held back from doing the actual action which we have been planning for so long. And I think as kids, we didn't really care too much about making mistakes because we felt like we had this very long runway. We felt that we could afford to make mistakes, or sometimes we simply weren't just aware that whatever we got ourselves into would have consequences down the road. And it's like my 10-year-old self wouldn't even think twice about making a video like this if he wanted to, right? He probably wouldn't have the knowledge or capacity to make a video like this. But what I'm essentially saying is that if he had the idea of executing this, he would do it straight away. He probably wouldn't spend the time or go through the effort of scripting this and putting the hard work into editing this. He would simply just record it on an iPhone 4 or Potato, and simply upload it, right? I'm not saying that prep work and all that doesn't matter. It does definitely improve efficiency and all that. But like I've said earlier in this video, we get so caught up in this cycle of needing everything to fall into place. And so, provided that your younger self was pretty carefree, it's pretty mind-boggling to kind of do this exercise and envision what he or she would have done in your current situation. Because at least in my situation, the outcome would have been much different, right? My 10-year-old self back then just created a YouTube channel one night and didn't care what he was posting. I simply literally just started by posting Roblox videos using the Roblox inbuilt screen recorder. That's how simple things were back then. I think not just that, making the mistakes and then learning from the mistakes you've made is kind of a whole experience in itself, right? It's something which we always try to avoid, but it's actually a very liberating experience on its own to kind of learn things along the way. It's literally how I got to where I'm at today. I literally make videos without putting in much effort, and then slowly I learned the ins and outs of editing, of shooting content, etc., etc. And I think that's the beauty of a lot of long-term projects, which we are always trying to avoid. Again, I just wanted to make this video as I've always struggled with this issue of overanalyzing what I do, especially when it comes to my schoolwork and more recently producing content. Hopefully, what I just said has resonated with those of y'all who might be watching and struggling with the same issue, and hopefully that little exercise which I recommended you do can kind of help you a little bit.